with a very warm heart that we welcome you to today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuloko, and we derive joy from doing this week after week. How is business going? And we hope that you are doing the needful, you know what we mean, paying your taxes as and when due. Good news came our way last week to the effect that Nigeria's GDP rose by 1.4%. And that means that gradually we are getting out of the woods. It is a prayer that as we pray that we all witness 2018, that our businesses will also witness a positive change. And of course, that means that you will pay your taxes. On Tuesday, the 7th of November, President Muhammadu Buhari presented the 2018 federal government budget to the National Assembly, tagged the budget of consolidation. The government estimates that in 2018, a total sum of 8.6 trillion naira will be spent, which is 16% above the 7.44 trillion of 2017. To generate this much needed revenue, government is projecting federally collectible revenue of 11.98 trillion, which is made up of oil and gas revenue 6.38 and non-oil 5.6. Again, that is 12% against what was projected to be collected in 2017. Now, the program is Tax Matters, and you would expect that in looking at the 2018 budget estimates as presented by President Muhammadu Buhari, we should be looking at what concerns taxation in all that was presented. Here we go. According to President Buhari, Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio still remains one of the lowest in the world. It is currently put at 6%, even though that figure is disputed by some who claim that only federally collectible taxes have been taken into consideration in arriving at that figure. That we should, in arriving at a credible figure, look at state and local government collected revenues. Be that as it may, it is still certain that because of low level of tax compliance, Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio remains the lowest. And so, government is desirous of ensuring that all taxable Nigerians comply with the legal requirements to declare income from all sources and remit taxes due to the appropriate tax authorities. We also want to tell you that there are no specific plans or proposals to amend, repeal, or impose new taxes in 2018. That again is coming straight from the budget speech of the president. In fulfilling this, President Buhari enjoined all Nigerians to take advantage of VACE, Voluntary Access and Income Declaration Scheme, from which the government expects to raise a whopping sum of 87.8 billion naira. And talking about VACE, you know that VACE kicked off on July 1st, 2017, and will run till March 31st, 2018. The period of grace is 39 weeks in all. By week 4 of November, 21 weeks are gone already. 18 more to go. Effectively, we have the months of December 2017, we have January, February, and March 2018 remaining. If you ask me, that is still good enough. So what do you need to do? Get your accounts prepared, and in doing that, take advantage of the best possible and affordable professional help. Chartered accountants and registered tax practitioners. For federal taxes, companies income tax, value-added tax, withholding tax and profit, petroleum profit tax, and the rest of them, approach the Federal Inland Revenue Service Office anywhere in the country. You can go into any one that you like. For state taxes, especially personal income tax, approach the State Board of Internal Revenue. Some of them call it Internal Revenue Service. Remember that for personal income taxes, whether you are the one paying under direct assessment or you are remitting what you have deducted from the monthly emoluments of your staff, personal income tax is paid to the state of residence of the payer. Whatever organization you work for, a bank, a federal ministry, a multinational, if you are in Uyo, personal income tax is paid to the Akwa Ibom State Board of Internal Revenue. If you are in Katsina, if you are in Funtua, personal income tax is paid to the Katsina State Internal Revenue Service. Visit the VACE website for more information, and of course, you can print the forms, both individual and corporate forms, from the website.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams (FEAT) on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate (TCC). Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
We are still on to tax matters, and we are still telling you stories from the month of November. On Thursday, the 7th of November, the Federal Inland Revenue Service held its day at the 2017 edition of the Lagos International Trade Fair. The Lagos International Trade Fair had earlier kicked off on Friday, November 3, to run till Sunday, November 12. Throughout the 11 days of the fair, the Federal Inland Revenue Service booth at the fair was a beehive of activities, playing host to scores of visitors to the fair from all walks of life. FIRS officials were on hand to guide taxpayers, to answer to their inquiries, and to register new taxpayers for taxpayer identification number. On the day, on the FIRS day, Pavilion 4 at the fairgrounds was filled to capacity, with top Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries and trade fair officials on hand to play host, along with top officials of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. The Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, was represented at the occasion by Mr. Sirakus Ekechi, who delivered the chairman's welcome address. Thereafter followed an interactive session.
I work with an NGO. I need to find out the process and procedures for obtaining tax exemption for non-governmental agencies.
I want the FIRS to see how we can assist companies operating, particularly in Lagos State. We are paying 3 levels of taxes. They pay tax with respect to, VAT to Federal Inland Revenue. Then Lagos State comes around to collect consumption tax on the same income. Then the local government comes around to collect entertainment tax on the same income. I think they should look into this. Thank you.
My response, starting with the very first one by Mr. Stanley Okere, who is asking for how he can obtain exemption from payment of taxes as an NGO. Section 23 specifically of companies income tax includes NGOs includes NGO as one of the companies, one of the organizations exempted from payment of tax. It is the exemption you already have there by the provisions of the law. You don't need to ask for any other exemption. But where you as an NGO that we know as not for profit business, and if you veer into any business venture that you derive income or you derive profit, that profit will be subjected to income tax because you have gone outside your mandate to do business, because an NGO is supposed to be a not-for-profit organization. Then with respect to the second question by Mr. Adeleke Adebanjo, in summary, he complained about multiple taxation, multiplicity of taxes in Lagos. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we are practicing fiscal federalism. The states have their own laws and right to collect taxes as prescribed under the law. The local government, they also have right to collect specify taxes as listed, even though in the name of rates and levies. At the federal level, our own authority to collect tax is guided by both our Establishment Act and the various companies' laws, company tax laws, including petroleum profit tax. Unfortunately, the VAT you refer to is having a common base as the base for entertainment tax that is collectible by the Lagos State. There is nothing anybody can do without going through the process of amending the tax law through the National Assembly. Yes, I have a third question. Why do religious organizations not pay tax? Why don't religious? Well, just like the not-for-profit organizations like the NGO that Mr. Stanley Okere mentioned, by virtue of Section 23 of Company Income Tax Act as amended, 2004 as amended, they are not supposed to pay tax. They are specifically exempted under the law. But for any reason, if a religious organization, a church, goes into business of any venture that they derive income or profit from, to that extent, that income or profit, after the allowable deductions, will be subjected to tax accordingly.
VAT, Value Added Tax, is a tax paid on all goods and services and remitted by the seller of the goods or provider of the service to government. 5% VAT is added to the total cost of goods and services in Nigeria, and when remitted to government, is used for funding development. The VAT you pay will be used by government to develop our transport infrastructure, like roads and railway lines, to continually improve our educational sector by building more schools and upgrading existing ones, to provide adequate security and a better quality of life for us all. Pay your VAT. Make your contributions to the development of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Permit us to go back to VATS, Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme. That's what is trending. If you watched last episode, you will recall that we signed off at the point where Mr. Yomi Olugbenro of Deloitte was talking about automatic exchange of information among countries of the world, more than 100 of them. And Mr. Olugbenro labored to tell his audience that with automatic exchange of information, there is no longer going to be a hiding place for tax dodgers.
As soon as people realize that their information are no longer secret, the willingness to do the right thing is enhanced. And it can also help to encourage accurate reporting, because if you fail to report accurately what you bought, the person you bought from is likely going to declare what is sold to you. So you are at the risk of being picked up for false reporting. The era of being able to hide, it's over.
The next paper that was presented was on data mining, which is very much related to automatic exchange of information.
We have about 70 million economically active Nigerians, and less than 10% of that are actually on the PE scheme. As a matter of fact, in our collaboration with FRS, the data we've gotten so far, so it means that there's really very low tax compliance in terms of the PE. And then we also have another one that says only 214 Nigerians pay above 20 million in taxes, and all of them are based in Lagos. Pay is around 21% of your salary or of your earnings. With 20 million naira, it means we can say that only 214 Nigerians earn above 93 million or 96 million thereabout annually, which, I mean, thinking about it doesn't seem correct. Then the third one, about 1,000 pay 10 million or more in taxes. All but 2 are also based in Lagos. So this goes a long way to show that there has to be serious effort in terms of adding or putting people within the tax net. We know that it's been very difficult having to enforce taxes because of silos of data that are packed in different places. So the BVN has actually helped in terms of the banking sector to be able to even clear some of those. So while you have a BVN, banks have done very good work with that. The CBN, through the CBN's directive, has been able to put accounts together so that from a BVN, you can actually trace accounts of every individual. So that has brought some form of data harmonization within the financial sector in such a way that if you collect loan from one bank, you can't go to another bank while you are still defaulting a loan from one bank. Now, with the Project Lighthouse, that is also what we plan to do. So we plan to harmonize data across different silos and different data points into a single database. From the information we're going to get from that database, we will know both the corporate and personal entities, which will pack into a database and then normalize that data by processing it and combining the data. So by entering one person's name, you're able to know if he has paid taxes, you're able to know his remittances so far for the last 5 years. You're also able to know the assets that particular individual has across all those different data points. And also in terms of income, you're also able to see that there's some form of liquidity, on an annual basis. And then once that is done, the next thing is now to put that person into the tax net once that data has been normalized. And then by putting it into the tax net, then FRS can go after the person, or the Internal Revenues Service within the states can go after the person, on a monthly or yearly or annual basis. Also, an information we're getting from CBN that's not here is the Nigerian Collateral Registry. So if you've ever collected loans in the past from a bank, you probably are going to be on that registry, and we're also going to capture that information here. So that information here will actually let us know the assets you've placed as collateral already, even before you start declaring your assets. Like I mentioned earlier, NIMC has records of about 24 million Nigerians. So we're supposed to pull that information in and begin processing it and appending, matching that information to assets and income as we move along. NIMC itself has actually already begun integration with BVN, and they also have integration with FRS, INEC, and immigration, which those are initiatives that they are all starting. So by having a concatenation of all of that information, we are able to identify a person even through a name, even if it's suggestive. Now, for the land registry, so we are working with state governments. Lagos State Government has already given its full cooperation in transferring their land registry database to us. And once that information is gotten, we'll also be able to track and know those who have assets spread across Lagos State. So that is actually ongoing as well. So for IPPIS, IPPIS is another database of most of the federal government staff. That's what IPPIS will do for us. GIFMIS is Government Integrated Financial Management Information Systems. So GIFMIS is the tool that all government agencies under the Federation accounts uses to pay corporate entities when they do business with government. So from GIFMIS, we've also met with them. We are also going to start integration by next week. We know that there's also very low withholding tax remittance compliance by MDs. We already know that after our meeting with the Office of the Accountant General. From customs, we are also going to track imports by both corporate and personal entities. So for items that have been imported, either vehicles, equipment, whatever it is, that information is going to let us know what a company entity or a person entity has actually imported. So it's very unlikely that a company or a person is importing something and it's actually not on a tax net. NCAA is registration of registered private jets in the country. We know that there are more private jets in the country than commercial airlines, so we also get information from that, and also the commercial airlines as well from NCAA. For the banks, so under the tax law, FRS has legal rights to retrieve bank statements for purposes of tax audit. So if we get all of this information in and we analyze it and we find out that a person has so assets or so income or so liquid assets and it's not on the tax net, FRS has legal rights to get the bank statements of that individual for purposes of tax audit. So that integration with the banks is also ongoing. And then once we begin to do that, FRS is able to do some form of analysis on your potential taxes even before you declare.
And this clincher?
We urge that even as you begin to advise your clients, that they come honestly to declare their assets, because while they declare their assets through this platform, they should be aware that the federal government already knows, already has some of this data compiled and processed even before they do that. So while they do it, it's just going to be a matter of matching what we already know about that individual against what they've honestly declared. And, honest declaration is the key to having any further negotiations or, asking for, a good time to make payments over time with FRS. But once it's dishonestly declared, then there might be a problem.
Good advice. A word they say is enough for the wise. Project Lighthouse indeed. Now that you know that the taxman knows you very well, what practical steps do you need to take advantage of VATs? That, because of time constraints, will come to you next episode. We promise. But this quick one from the Executive Chairman of the FIRS.
One of the speakers did say that we have a lot of information, which is very true, and I think the Minister of Finance had indicated that. We do have a lot of information on individual personal assets, corporate assets, and we're in the process of even getting more, both within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. Now, there are one or two things I'll also let you know. People thought that, or mentioned that we're doing property tax in Nigeria. FIRS is not involved in property tax. We are just applying the law and issuing assessments based on turnover. And what we first of all did, we looked at corporate properties in the name, or landed properties in the name of corporate entities that have not filed tax returns. Within Abuja alone, there were over 2,000 corporate organizations that had never filed a return but owned landed properties and built-up properties in Abuja with values in excess of 2 trillion. We've also done the same in Lagos, we've done the same in Kaduna, and it's going to be a nationwide exercise. So if you have your clients who decided to operate or open a company just for the purposes of real estate without filing the normal returns, ask them to please do so. As long as they can account for that investment within their own financials, there are no issues. But next week, there will be a publication that we will start the disposal of those landed properties to offset any tax assessments given to them.
Very timely clarification on property tax. There's no property tax. What the FIRS is simply doing is to ensure that you declare all declarables. People register properties in company names, and yet those companies don't file returns. You cannot eat your cake and have it. Now this other one, a very big one.
At the same time, we're also trying to make it easy for all taxpayers to pay their taxes. And we did get approval for those companies who have got foreign exchange tax liabilities, already established tax liabilities in foreign exchange. They'll be allowed to pay those liabilities in Naira at the rate of 325 up until December 14th of this year. So I'm sure most of you who represent some of these clients who say they had applied for foreign exchange from the CBN, and that's why they couldn't pay their foreign exchange tax liabilities, now have the opportunity to pay those liabilities in Naira up until December 14th of this year. So please let them know that. We had also asked for current valid email addresses for all companies who would like to get an alert when any payment is made on their behalf, whether it's withholding tax, whether they remit their VAT or any taxes paid. Once you do that, you get automatic computer-generated email. You can download your receipt, you can confirm your receipt, you can print your receipt. So you don't actually have to ask from the tax office. Even with your withholding tax credits, you can actually download those credits yourself, confirm them also with a smartphone. So please tell your clients that they should provide us with authentic working email addresses for this service. And of course, all these services are free. So we're trying as much as possible to make the process convenient, transparent, and simple.
Respite there for corporate organizations who have outstanding tax liabilities to pay in foreign currency. The law is very clear on the payment of taxes in the currency of transaction. Add to that the fact that the government is now saying that they can pay those taxes at the rate of 325 naira to the dollar, and you will see a magnanimous government. Out there in the market, a dollar is between 360 and 364 as we speak. We thank you most sincerely for finding time to watch today's episode of Tax Matters. Let's meet again next week on this same platform, same day of the week, same time of the day for a fresh episode of Tax Matters. Have a blessed week ahead.